I thought we could talk about some Goa'uld, since we're kind of reviewing and revisiting a lot of the aspects of Stargate as we lead into this exciting new series coming. One of the most important plot points in Stargate was that of the Goa'uld, the primary enemy and sort of antagonist in the beginning of Stargate SG-1. Of course, there then was later antagonists, but there were a lot of them. And I know for the most part, there were one primary enemy for the first 5 seasons, and then a couple others that kind of became the primary Goa'uld antagonist near the end. But I thought we could also talk about some of the other kind of minor or recurring Goa'uld that had important or unimportant aspects to the plot line that were mentioned because there were just so many of them. I mean, I think what made me think about let's discuss this as we were talking about some Goa'uld that was in the episode where Apophis, has been sent to Sokar and he ends up impersonating someone, Neonak, and it's actually Apophis. And we were talking about it, and I think we all went, wait a second, do we remember this Goa'uld? And then I went, there's so many Goa'ulds.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I thought, let's talk about some of them. And so I have this nice list, and maybe we can start by like saying our opinions and thoughts on the various Goa'uld, how bad we think they are, um, and whether we like them, dislike them, and not
Yeah.
necessarily like, but as a character. And so I guess I will start with not a main one. I will maybe pick a Goa'uld like Osiris.
Okay.
So Osiris was actually, I put Osiris in the category of kind of story plot relevant because Osiris was one of the sort of primary, but not like main Goa'uld antagonists because she had a close connection with Daniel. Because the host of Osiris was Daniel's old girlfriend and colleague, Sarah. And there was this episode where Daniel went back. It was for a funeral, right? For
Yeah,
one of
for
his
like a
old
professor.
professors.
Yeah.
And basically, in this episode, through all the events that happened, Daniel reconnected with Sarah, but Sarah then was taken over by the Goa'uld Osiris, and actually Osiris became a recurring character throughout the series.
hmm
So, yeah. What do you think of Osiris?
You know, I don't know. She's not necessarily like one of my favorite ones, for example. Don't really know why. I think it's that I don't really like that storyline too much. Like I find it kind
Mm.
of um I don't know. For some reason it irritates me, and I honestly can't put my finger on why. Um, but so like I think it's just kind of like that storyline I'm just not really fond of. I don't really like the interactions with her and Daniel. It just kind of irritates me for some reason. Um, it could just be because like sometimes like I don't like when there's that idea of like the love interest and then something bad happens and then it's kind of like I feel like they've done that a lot with Daniel, so I just wasn't really fond of that dynamic. I mean, I guess it could be kind of a cool character. I think my issue with a lot of Goa'ulds is like they're always just kind of there to create like that level of danger, right? And some are more obnoxious than others. Um, some are more like interesting, and I just find hers in particular to just not be that interesting to me.
Oh, gotcha. No, this is good. This is why we're being savage. We are not going to pull our punches and sugarcoat anything here. Um, do you think like if Sharae hadn't happened already with Daniel specifically, do you think you would have felt differently about Osiris? Or do you also think like the vibe between her and Daniel is kind of not really there?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it's highly possible maybe I would see it differently. It's just I think like um I don't know. Sometimes there's just like when it's like a love interest kind of thing. I don't know why. Like sometimes like it just like irritates me and something about that storyline. I think maybe because of it also going back into his past where you don't really have a connection with
Mm,
that character. Maybe that's part of it. I'm not really fond of Shawray either. So it's kind of like it could be a case of, you know, how on our last episode, when we were talking to my daughter, like how we were talking about Charé and how like weren't really into that character quite as much. And I think we were mentioning then like if there was more of a backstory and storyline that we had watched, maybe it would have felt differently. It could have been the case with like Osiris. I don't know. I guess like it could just be the episode that's just not one of my favorite episodes. But yeah, I mean, I think potentially, like to answer your question, if the whole Shawray thing didn't happen, then probably it would have felt more like a new idea. And
true.
and maybe then I would be more like into the story, where it feels a little bit like a recycled idea slightly. Um, and
True.
I also think just with Stargate in general because of it being an older show, right? Like sometimes some of the scenes when they go outside to other parts of the like not on the base and they're just in other parts in the US, it really can show the age of the show
Ah,
because the
true,
filming
true.
quality is different. And for some reason, sometimes when I see things where the filming quality feels so different because you can tell it's from an older time, it gives me an icky feeling just in general, just with any kind of show that I don't like it. So that could have been part of it is like like I could just sense that it was from um an older time and it just kind of
Right.
gave me like an icky vibe. Um and maybe then that's why then I didn't like that Goa'uld as much. I'm not really sure. But
That's a good point. Yeah, I wonder, like also, I think Osiris showed up in season 5, right? If I remember right.
I don't know. I have no clue.
Because I know that this was around the time when it might have been season 4, season 5. I somehow feel like one of the main aspects of Osiris was in season 5. And remember, like, didn't Michael Shanks also say that he felt that, especially after the Share storyline was concluded, that it was kind of difficult for his character to have a motivation. Like, and so they gave
Oh,
the Harcesis. But I wonder if this was also like another way that they were kind of trying to give his character uh like a motivation or kind of a link with this Goa'uld world is that he, because then I think for a while he tried to actually save her again. But as you said, this is a little bit now, it's been done.
yeah.
And um yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. It could have been just where the season was at that time and maybe what was part of the reason of Michael Shanks then leaving briefly
Hmm.
because I definitely do feel that with his character in general, like after he comes back, he has some of the most like interesting storylines
Yeah,
for that character
true,
that
true, true.
I really love. So yeah, it very well could have been an attempt to kind of bring more interest in that way and make like some sort of connection that would make sense that maybe just didn't pan out. I'm not really sure. Um but yeah, I mean, is she kind of like one of your faves or
I would say no, probably not. I think it's not one that I would consider like, this is really not a Gould I like. Or to say that they're like forgettable. I think she's present in the story. She never bothered me. I thought her costume was really cool.
yeah. You know,
Um,
sorry, did I cut you off?
oh no, sorry. But I wouldn't like say, oh wow, this is one of the best Gould. It's kind of more like don't love, don't hate.
Yeah. Yeah. I what's kind of interesting for me is like, and this is going to sound really strange because the Goa'uld are such a big part of SG-1. but I find that it's sometimes hard for me to find a favorite, like to actually be like, oh yeah, I love that goal. It's like, and I don't know if part of that is just because they do so well with like making you hate them, or dislike them. But if I kind of think of it from a different angle and I try and think of like, okay, when I was watching that, was I really interested when it got time to that Goa'uld being in that series, like that episode? And so then I'm kind of like basing it off of that kind of because for some reason it's hard for me to actually just think of a Goa'uld or
Right.
Goa'ulds that I really like. Um, but it made me think of like, um, I feel like a lot of like the female ones are less of a storyline at times, with the exception of like Hathor and things and Neardy. But like um one that I was just like looking at our little list that I would have actually loved to know a lot more about, and I think I would have really liked is Katesh. Um
Yes. Yes,
and I
absolutely.
think that's solely because I love Claudia Black.
Yeah.
And so there you have it where it's like interesting because it's like with the Vala character, you have that to go from, right? And then you learn of her being Katesh, right? I think if that's how it worked, like you
Yes,
you
you do.
later you later find out that
That she
she
was
was a
Katesh. Yeah.
host. And so I think it's kind of maybe correct me if I'm wrong, is that the only Goa'uld that it's sorry, my Zoom keeps zooming me in and
I
out.
was like, hey, sorry, I'm far
um
away from you now.
woo. Um, yeah, it's such an automatic thing, and I think when I slightly move, then it tries to readjust me. But
It's just
anyways,
funny because when you did
yeah.
that, for some reason, I had an instant reaction to go closer to the screen. And I don't know, it's like, when somebody readjusts, you kind of readjust too. And it's like you went close to the screen, and my immediate reaction was to like go closer.
Yeah, it's kind of like the thing if you're eating and talking to someone and someone like scratches their mouth and then you think, oh God, do I have something on there too? And then you start doing the same
Yes,
thing.
right.
But anyways, I think Hitesh is the only one where you kind of initially like know the person, the
Yes.
host, and then you hear a little bit about them as the Goa'uld. And I think like um because like of the humor that Vala has with her character, it's kind of like if I remember correctly, even though like it was very briefly they showed Katesh in things. And I know it was different than Vala, obviously, but there was something about that I would have been really interested to kind of go more into the backstory. Like I would be totally down for there being like a spin-off of it being about that character for some reason. Like I think that would be really cool to kind of learn more about Katesh and before it takes Vala as a host and like how all of that happened and just like it would be really fascinating. I think it would be kind of a cool like I have a feeling maybe it's linked to it being connected to that actress because I really like her, but I think that could then be a potential of like a favorite Goa'uld would be Katesh if I had to choose.
Yeah. No, I think Katesh would be amazing if we got to see more Katesh.
Yeah.
And I loved that in Continuum, she ended up with Ball because I think their dynamic would have been extremely hilarious, especially with them like both constantly trying to double cross each other.
Yeah.
And maybe you think that they're like everything is good with them, but no, they're just gonna double cross each other, and then like Earth will benefit somehow, which would be very funny. But I agree. I would have absolutely loved Katesh. It's funny now that you mentioned that, I'm questioning, did every person that Daniel was like somewhat romantically linked with, other than like, maybe a one-off thing, were they all hosts at some point?
Oh my gosh.
Because
Yeah.
he was linked with Share and she became Amunet. Sarah became Osiris, and then Vala was previously Katesh.
Wow. I mean, I guess you could think of like what was that episode where he went into the sarcophagus a lot? He was kind of
Yes.
romantically linked with that girl there. She wasn't a
Yeah.
Goa'uld, right?
No, I mean, there's like the one-off, and then he was kind of romantically linked with Linnea, actually, like at some point.
Yeah, but there's always some sort of like crazy storyline there, right? It's kind of like the poor guy can't catch a break of just like a normal girl. Like
Like,
just
damn it, everybody I try and date, they all turn out to be like a maniacal, like bent on dominating the galaxy or
I
something.
mean, I'm sensing a pattern with him. Maybe he needs to go into therapy because there's clearly a cycle that he goes through. It needs to be someone that's in some sort of like harm of some sort that he needs to
Yeah,
kind of like play the hero with.
yeah. I mean, addict, Gould, Gould, and then destroyer of worlds, and then another Gould.
Yeah. I mean, clearly, like, yeah, clearly there's a pattern there that Daniel needs to fix because I mean, he never did get with Frasier, right? And
Mm-mm.
like that would have probably been the most chill relationship for him, would be that.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly, exactly. No, I agree. But yeah, no, I think Katesh would be amazing. I think it's unfortunate that we didn't get as much screen time because she only appeared towards the end.
Yeah.
But I guess to kind of conclude this cycle of these particular Goulds, then we should go to Amonet. Um, and
Wait, which one is that?
Amonet was Share.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So this was kind of early on. It was, I mean, it's interesting because other than I guess Katesh and Baal, where you saw them kind of being king and queen together, like ruling together, I think Amonet was maybe one of the only times that you saw a Goa'uld partnered with someone else, kind of. And I don't know if they just didn't bring this back, but Apophis and Amonet were, I guess, a thing. And then they created the Harcesis. I think I really like the storyline of the Harcesis primarily because I love the Absolute Power episode, and I love that that storyline brought us to Keb,
Mhm.
and the concept of ascended beings and enlightenment was something I absolutely loved about the series. Um, but I guess like Amonet only had a little amount of screen time. So I would say more the things I enjoyed about Amonet were the after effects that kind of were brought due to her character being present.
Right, right. There it goes, zooming in again. Right. Clearly, that's a point that needs to be made. Oh my gosh. Anyways, yeah, no, yeah, sorry, I keep zooming in and out, but normally it doesn't do it quite as much, but it is what it is. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have much to really say about that one, just because, like I've told you, like I was never really like a big fan of Shaw-Ray and that whole thing. So, um, yeah, I mean, I guess how you mentioned Patesh and Ball. I mean that brings up an obvious favorite for many is Ball. Like I think the thing I like about him is that he's kind of quirky. Like I like when like the Goa'ulds are like quirky and kind of strange. Like if they're just like I'm a bad guy, raw. Like not raw, but like you know what I mean? Like anyways.
Raw. Actually, Raw is a Gould.
Yeah, I know it wasn't yeah, but I was just like making a monster effect. Um, I you know what's weird with Ball is that because like when I did my initial rewatch, I remember kind of hearing so much about him and I knew that he was like a fan favorite and I actually expected him to be in way more episodes than he was. And so it was kind of I don't know had I not like constantly heard about him kind of being a favorite of people, I don't know how I would have felt about him to be honest. Like I think it's a cool character. I kind of like the whole concept of of how he somehow manages to like give off this really quirky vibe, even though he's horrible. Like he's like torturing people. And that's like, that could be like played in such a different way that would make you just feel like they're just vile, right? Like you just wouldn't want to see them. But he plays it in a way that it he's kind of just quirky and silly and like he's one of the first ones to kind of have like a cool style, right? Like costume
Yes.
wise. And um so I feel like he's kind of in his own category in a sense because of all of that. So I do really, really like that character, but I'm not sure if I'm being slightly influenced by hearing so much talk about him ahead of time, if that makes sense. Um,
True.
because I had forgotten about him. And then when I did the initial rewatch, it was just kind of like, I was like, oh, wait, is he going to be in it more? Like, he's not in it that much. Like, um, it's kind of like I mean, unless I'm not remembering some of it, but it's like if you think of like the first time you really, really see him, where it's like a full thing is the episode where he's torturing Jack. Um,
That's, I think, his first appearance. Yeah. Yeah.
well, didn't he appear before that though, where he was on the ship?
Probably.
He was
I,
on the
you know
ship
what?
where when Daniel wanted to poison all of them. I
Oh,
think
yeah,
that's
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
first
yeah.
time you see Ball. Um, which I initially never noticed until I rewatched with Taylor. That's how I
Mm-hmm.
noticed that he was actually even on there. Like I didn't really think anything of
True.
it.
True.
So yeah, I mean, I guess like that would definitely be a fan favorite, I think. And I'm pretty sure you really like that Goa'uld, right?
I love Ball. Like he is definitely like my favorite like of all the ones. I think maybe just he tends to because he's in episodes that are kind of stand out that maybe that's why it gives the impression that he's in more episodes than he is.
Mm-hmm.
But also kind of he has this weird influence and appearance on some episodes because they maybe reference him or something's going
Right.
on. What I kind of like found refreshing about Ball, because of course after Apophis, I mean we were until the end of season 5, I think Apophis was kind of the main guy. Like he was there all 5 seasons. He was this main baddie that they were always fighting, even though there were all these other Goa'ulds. It was kind of Apophis is still there, and all the Goa'ulds were still kind of similar. And I did like that Ball was a bit different, like how he dressed, how he presented himself, that he was a bit more conniving. Like that's where I think like Katesh and Ball would be this amazing team
Yeah.
because Vala has this kind of conniving aspect about her, and I can imagine her Goa'uld, like Katesh would probably this would be amplified, and so you'd get
Yeah.
this maximum conniving. And just in general, I found that aspect really interesting that he was
Yeah.
a little bit more like this. And then I also liked that sometimes they kind of had to work with him. And
True.
I
Yeah.
mean, that's also, I guess, partially the storyline, like as there were worse, like, Anubis was around and the Ori were around. And so sometimes they had to kind of go, okay, well, I mean,
Yeah.
he wasn't like the major Goa'uld that was running everything. And he's kind of almost like, I guess when you think about it, he's like it was Todd, right? From the Wraith. The Wraith was called Todd. Please tell me
Yeah.
I'm right.
Yeah.
He's kind of like the Todd of SG-1. Because
Yeah.
sometimes he would have to work with them, but they couldn't always trust him, and sometimes he would be against them. And I mean, really, in the end, he's kind of a free agent for himself,
That's a really good point. Yeah.
but
Yeah.
sometimes and so I think in that aspect, like I really liked his storyline. So he's one of the more interesting ones to me in that regard, that he was just so different. Out
Yeah.
of curiosity, are you one that also that found that him and Sam would have potentially made a cute couple?
Does my expression say it?
I mean, not
Oh,
like a couple, but a lot of people kind of indicated that him and Sam had some chemistry. Maybe not to like date, but to have a nice night on a planet far, far away.
ew, no way. No way. Like, just no way. Maybe replicator Sam, maybe.
Maybe there is a universe
Um,
where Replicator Sam and Ball are an item.
yeah. But oh God, no. No, no, no. Um, I mean, it seemed like a vibe with him and wait, was he ever, or am I remembering this completely inaccurately? Was he around Adria, right?
Yes,
Um, I felt like they had a vibe.
they might have, yeah. And I mean, didn't he actually? Okay, hang on. He was in Adria. Like he was, like he didn't he become? Wasn't like didn't Ball? Hang on. I'm not kidding though, because didn't Adria become a Goa'uld, but with Ball?
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I haven't gotten back to that part yet with Taylor with the rewatch. Wow, but sorry, I'm just really disturbed with how you said all of that.
I mean, I really don't know any other way to say it other than he went in Adria.
Okay, sorry, immature mind here.
I mean, but actually, maybe then you're 100% correct because wouldn't Ball be one that really he would be the most in love with himself? So for him to enter the thing he's in love with himself and become himself makes the most sense.
Whoa. I just feel like I've entered a different reality right now. This all feels very strange. I just feel confused now. What's really confused. Maybe someone else will get it and they'll comment and they'll just really understand that brainwave right there. But I just like I can't get past the disturbed feeling of all of this like conversation right now. Oh dear
I
God.
mean, see, so Ball is multidimensional and he's in love with himself, I guess. He's the only true
Oh, but the one that really is arrogant is what's his face? Oh, what's his name? The snarly guy. The pouty
snarly
guy. The
guy.
pouty guy. The pouty guy that tries to like keep Scarlet as the host.
Oh, Zupacna.
Yeah, Zupacna. Yeah. Oh my
So
God.
again,
What do you think of him? Because I feel like it's like a love-hate thing for me with that character. Like I mean that actor obviously like after all this ended up being crazy famous, right? So you see him in everything. Um, but I think he pulls it off really well to like be so arrogant. Like I think that's one of the first times you see a Goa'uld that is so like blatantly arrogant that like it just like makes you want to punch him in the face, which is probably how they want you to feel. So in that sense of being so irritated with like a Goa'uld, he would be like on the top of the list for that.
no, that's completely true. I love Zupacna, and I
Yeah.
absolutely love this character. I think Ball has like his arrogance level is like nothing compared to Zupacna and his
Hmm.
smugness. Like Zupacna is also smug.
Yeah.
You don't really, I mean, and I know there's some smugness and some gold in the air, you'll pay for your insolence, but like Zupacna is super smug.
Yeah.
And I also think it's very worth noting, and I don't know if you saw this, I'm sure you did, because I'm sure we maybe even shared it with each other at some point. There was actually a meme about Zupacna going around because there's some shots from that where he kind of looks like Elon Musk. And it was like many years ago, and people were saying, ah, Elon Musk is a cool. So, which like
So
could,
true. So true. That wouldn't surprise me if Elon Musk was a Goa'uld.
but like kudos to Zupacna for breaking containment outside of just like Stargate fandom and becoming a meme. Um, and to be that smug, like he like I love Zupacna. And I mean I guess he's only in like very little, like that episode or maybe one other episode and that's it, right? Like, but
Yeah.
he's just it's an amazing character and it's early on too. It's like season 2 or season 3, something like this. Like it's quite early on.
I
Um,
I almost think he's a good blend of uh Apophis and Ball. It's almost like
yep.
he's like the middle ground of of what the Goa'ulds are to become, if that makes sense, in the sense of like personality. Like I feel like um Apophis is so like theatrical in the sense
Yes.
of like it's a bit cringy um
Yeah.
with like things that are said, how it's said. um I feel like in the beginning, like Goa'ulds are just kind of absolutely ridiculous. Like,
Yeah.
and I mean that with all the love in the world. Like, I just like it's just kind of like it. What it kind of reminds me of if you've ever watched Power Rangers and you have like the villains that the Power Rangers go
Yeah.
after, and it's done in a very like I don't know what you call that style, but I think what Power Rangers was that a Japanese show,
I actually
Chinese.
don't know.
I'm not really sure where it originated, but basically there's a certain style of the way the show is supposed to be, and it has like, like the characters that you don't see their faces, and like, you're just like you're hearing their voice, but like you don't see like a mouth moving, right? Because like there are these characters that are like monster like things. And it's kind of done in a very theatrical way. Like if you go
Yeah.
back, especially to like the original Power Rangers, I'm not sure with some of because there's a million different Power Ranger shows. But like the original, like with how it was filmed and how it was acted, there's a very specific kind of campy kind of vibe, I guess. Would that be the correct term?
Yes.
Of the villain. And I feel like initially that's how Stargate started off, is that the Goa'uld is kind of like this like kind of almost humorous villain that's not giving you too much of a scary vibe. Um, but like there's something to fear, if that makes sense, in a very almost kid show kind of way.
Yeah.
But then if you kind of fast forward and think of um, like Sokar, right? Or you think
Yeah.
of the guy with
Anubis.
the eyeball. What's his face?
Oh, the one that was with Sokar, the one
Yeah.
that Jolnar had to like seduce. Okay.
Oh, what's his name?
Beinar?
Biner? Yeah.
Yes.
Um, Now that gets to a level of scary, right? That starts to
Mhm.
make you feel uneasy. The environment is obviously different too. It's more like of like a fearful kind of vibe. Where if you compare that to the very beginning, you don't
Yeah.
get that vibe at all. It's like
No.
completely different. Um, which I like. Like I like how like with the Goa'ulds, it kind of evolves into something a bit more sinister and scary and almost like an adult kind of way as opposed to a kid's show, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And I
No,
think both work, but yeah.
no, I completely agree with you. Like I think, and I'm very happy, like in a way I'm very happy that although it kind of started with this sort of against Apophis as like, the main guy, that they started introducing other ones and that it became this network of various different Goa'ulds at different tiers. And because I think that added such a nice dynamic. It's no longer that you're fighting the enemy, but you're fighting against this whole system that also has its own fractures and its own issues. And sometimes you can work with that. Like I think later on, as the system lords and everything become more complex, they were able to use this to their advantage and negotiate with them, and it became much more complex
Yeah.
and maybe much more reminiscent of how I guess things actually work in even in our world when we're dealing with
Yeah.
the concerns.
And I
So,
I do also like how like there's an element of emotion that I feel is brought in with some of the Goa'ulds after like Apophis dies. So
hmm.
like I feel like that was really like very impactful like in the storyline, but also just like to almost make you think like, oh crap, yeah, like this is like a host that has been stuck like being controlled this whole time, and you suddenly have like a sadness
Yeah.
for the host, and it's like a sudden realization that the kind of campy nature of it previously kind of takes away from that, and it kind of gets more serious, I think. um and then it's like you have that, and then if I think of like you, like
Yeah.
why you, not you, um but like it's like with that episode where the memory's kind of wonky, right, that something was wrong with the
Yes.
memory. I actually really liked that
Me too.
episode, and like that actually made me really like you. Yes. That's seriously because I
It
uh,
wouldn't, what does Daniel J say? Like every joke, every pun done to death. Seriously, when Weir looks at him, when he's like, "Yeah, and Lord you," and she's like, "You," and he's like, "Every joke, every pun done to death." But yeah, no, actually, the you storyline was really cool. I thought for so many reasons. I mean, one, because it ended up like being actually plot relevant, that they were kind of, two, he became more sympathetic. And actually, something I loved was when they kind of made the Goa'uld more sympathetic, like specific ones, because then it's not like, oh, this group of bad guys, but okay, this is a little bit more complex. And somehow I actually really liked you. Like he was one of my favorite Goa'ulds, like in the end. And so that was
yeah,
kind of a nice storyline.
yeah. um
But I think at that point, what was really important was I think there was this circumstance, correct me if I'm wrong, but this was around the time when there was Anubis, who was kind of probably the most in terms of scariness. Like he was
yeah,
the most scary. He was probably getting the closest to like the Wraith, like in terms of the
yeah,
fear factor. Um, so at that point, it was a very interesting circumstance because like they were also the system lords were fighting against Anubis, or at least trying to prevent him from basically creating a his own like entire empire. And so they ended up having to work with them a lot and negotiate with them a lot,
hmm,
which is a very interesting plot point. But Anubis was kind of, I guess it's kind of like if Apophis, and I mean, you mentioned Sokar, so I
hmm,
won't brush over this. Like you mentioned Sokar and Bainar, which alluded to this sort of more serious, more kind of horrifying version of Goa'uld that were maybe a little bit
yeah,
more. And I think Anubis is maybe the like main character realization of what Sokar was in a way,
yeah,
because he was very more dark. It was much more dark, but he ended up being kind of like the primary. I mean, I guess there was also Ball, but he was kind of the primary Goa'uld villain of that time.
hmm,
Because yeah, sometimes they work with Ball anyways. So, but everybody was against Anubis, and Anubis
yeah,
was kind of big and bad, and I think he was over the top in terms of the theatrics they showed, but it was very different. Like I think you're right, like Apophis, it's this cartoony thing, and Anubis, there's still a little bit of like comic book villain, but it is definitely darker.
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, what did you think of Anubis?
I always got distracted by the fact that I just thought of it being like Darth Vader. Right? Because Anubis is the one with the dark,
Yeah,
and you
or
don't
like
see
Emperor
the
Palpatine or something, yeah.
um and like especially then too when like Daniel, as ascended Daniel, is kind of fighting back, he looks like Obi-Wan. So it's kind of like the whole
So
concept
true.
just like weirds me out. But no, I mean I do actually really like the mystery behind
Mhm.
Anubis. I think that's what makes me really like that specific character, is there's that mystery of trying to figure out, well,
What is
what is
he?
he? What is this? Like I know we're missing something here. Like we need to figure it out. And I don't feel like you necessarily get that with like any other goals. Like
Yes, that's true.
you don't get that sense of mystery of really feeling like there's something you need to figure out to have it make sense, and it feels like you're just waiting on that tipping point of something happening with it all. It's like you're just kind of waiting to see, like, something bad's going to happen, kind of vibe. um but just because it's on my computer screen, I don't mean to like switch to, it's kind of not a very good segue, but like it made me think of like how sometimes with Goa'ulds, like they can do like horrendous things. Um, but you don't get the gist of that necessarily because of how they are. And
Yeah.
I feel it's kind of like that with Cronus, because isn't he the one that killed Teal'c's father, right? And
Yes.
I feel like just with the nature of that happening, I almost feel like he should look different. Like I feel like he should be more evil feeling. But
Yes.
to me, he looks like a Hercules.
Yeah.
Like,
True, true, true. We get it.
um, and it's like I can't take him seriously. Like I just want to laugh when I see him in his flowing long hair. Like I just feel like it doesn't it's almost like it's before the time of when the Goa'uld start to feel like truly truly evil, even though that's obviously very evil and horrible. And I think it's all well done for part of the series that's at. It's just kind of an interesting look to me, um for that Goa'uld to kind of have that vibe. It's
Yeah.
still a bit theatrical at that point.
Yeah. No, true. And I mean, I think it also goes to show how, I guess, casually in a way, the Goa'uld approached killing. Like,
Yeah,
you can also look at it this way that, I mean, he wasn't really looking evil. He looked like any other
true.
leader of people at that time, and he's committing these atrocities. So that's how normalized it is for them. And I think, I mean, I know Tilk talks about his past a lot, and so there are definitely circumstances where he's told just to kill people, and um, it's kind of normalized. And so then when you hear that, yeah, there's this other guy, Apophis, that they're all considering to be much worse, and that's a threat. I mean, what is a threat to people who are just killing for, like, it's they kind of treat human beings like they're, obviously, like they treat them like they're disposable, like they're object.
This might
So
be a really weird question, but I was just like thinking of it, and maybe you won't have any thoughts on this, but like, what do you think of like the female golds? Like, I feel like they've all been given a very, very specific like vibe, like usually very sexualized in one way or another. um and like a lot of them have like amazing like costumes, and I like the vibe of it. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I kind of like almost feel like when we're talking about the golds that are dudes, right? Like there's different personalities there. There's like the very like awful ones that are quite scary, and then there's the ones that are more theatrical. And I think with the female golds, they all kind of have this like swagger about them that they give off just a very specific vibe. It all seems almost like the same Goa'uld, if that makes sense. It doesn't seem like
uh,
there's there's like a different like there's so many different personality types that could be used within a character, and I feel like it's just solely like make these women look as hot as possible kind of vibe. It's kind of like it's kind of like I feel like it's a little bit sexualized. Not that they don't have like amazing costumes, and that could work for some of them, but do all of them have to be that way? Could it also be that like there's just like a really quirky one, like a really like humorous like Goa'uld, it's like you just don't know.
I would guess the reason being because I mean to me it's funny because the only one that I really consider sexualized is Hathor. Like that's
Okay.
just like to me because like I don't consider like Nirti is 100% all like to me she's like this conniving thing that has all these weird experiments. She's a scientist.
True, yeah.
And so I kind of think of it very differently. So to me, the only one that really has that kind of like aspect is Nirti, but in terms, or I mean, is Hathor. And also same with Osiris. I mean, they're all dressed a certain way, but I think also it's like when you consider that their whole concept of the Goa'uld is that they're all very narcissistic and
Right.
focused on that. I think in general you just wouldn't find like you wouldn't find necessarily, I think, someone that would be a woman host or that would take a female host when you think that they're the Goa'uld are, I mean, I'm assuming they're like Tok'ra, they're not having a gender. So they take on the host, and they would probably make the host like considering that like they would be focused on appearance in some way, but maybe they'd be less focused on
Right.
appearance if it's a male host. They would take a female host, and so I mean, when you think like, I think they did this study and they found that like women who are like having narcissistic or dark triad personality tendencies, um, that they have more, they're more often that between without makeup and clothes and with makeup and clothes, they have more difference in their appearance than people that don't have those qualities. Like that's something they
Oh,
did some study on this, that they actually are much more adept at modifying the appearance
oh, okay.
or that they do it more regularly. And so I kind of wonder, to me, I almost took that as more like the narcissistic thing, that if you're a
Ah,
narcissist
that's
and
a
then you take a
really, really good point. Yeah.
and then you take on a female host, like of course you're going to want to be like, yep, I'm gonna show everything. I'm gonna be as like, you know, good looking as possible. Um, Whereas yeah, I mean on the male side, I mean yeah, even Ball, he's quirky, but he is fashionable. Like he really cares about his looks. Um,
True. That's a
so
really good point. Yeah. I
but
can
I mean
see
it's a
that.
really
That makes
good
sense.
I have to say it's a very good question, and I'd be really curious what other people would have to say. Because I mean, I only had this like because I was going really off their action, and like to me, like Hathor was that was the point. Like she was this Goa'uld that was like based on the goddess of sex and had and love and
Yeah.
everything, and that was kind of
It
part of
makes
the
sense for that character for sure. Yeah.
yeah. But the other ones I don't know because honestly, like I didn't really think about it. Like it's something I didn't that maybe if I watch it again, I would note it, but. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. I mean,
some Tok'ras are like,
I kind of just noticed. I mean, I feel like it's done less in Stargate. Like there's probably more of a reason behind it with Stargate for certain like clothing choices and stuff. It's just I sometimes get irritated when I feel like in shows like they just like always just have a very certain look for like the women characters to to basically dress in like a very like sexy way, right? Like I just
Mhm.
feel like kind of like they do that sometimes with some of the Tok'ra, like that one lady, is it Freya?
Yes, Fran and Anise,
Like I
like the
feel like
classic.
I feel like every time I watch that, all I see are her boobs. That's all I see. Like I feel like just like the costume, that's all you notice constantly. And
Yeah,
so I feel like that's intentional.
I
Because
think in that
both
one, it's the
Daniel and
nature.
Jack like are kind of into her, you know? So it's like, I don't
I
know.
think in that one, it's the costume. And like, it's funny because with other, like, they could have just had like a costume where like it shows cleavage or anything. Like, there's almost anything you could do with that. But it's like, this is the most unusual kind of costume that I could never figure out. Like, okay, is it actually trying to be sexy or like is it trying to be futuristic but still try to be sexy or like what exactly are they doing with
Yeah.
this? Because it's like one of the most unique. I mean, I think that's kind of cool. It's one of the most unique costumes I've ever seen, but you're right, it's very like in a way kind of distracting because it's not like a character that has like, you know, really huge cleavage or they're wearing a really like even Hathor, you don't get that distracted. Like
It almost feels like Tomb Raider invaded Stargate. Um, but I mean, don't get me wrong, like I love like all these costumes and I think they look amazing and
yeah.
and I can see why it would be fun to wear those. I can see why it makes sense with like the characters. So I'm not like crapping all over the fact like acting like, oh, well, women can't be portrayed in a certain way, blah blah blah. It's just more of like something that it's like I noticed with the Goa'uld, it's almost always that vibe, in my opinion. Like there's
Yeah.
that underlying layer of seduction that is always there, but maybe that's just like part of it. Maybe that's how the Goa'uld are, and that's why that's there. I don't know, but and you are right with is it Nearty? She does. I was forgetting how she does give off a different vibe for sure. Um, so yeah, it's just something that it's like, I guess once you kind of break it down more so and actually talk about it, then it kind of doesn't seem so black and white with that concept that I initially like was bringing up. Like I can see kind of like the points that you made where it does actually kind of make sense for the Goa'uld in a sense. But it was just kind of something that like as I was just like looking at the pictures and I'm like trying to remember who's who and you kind of get
Ah,
vibes off
yeah,
of
yeah,
certain characters. I'm like, oh, like I noticed this. And like whereas like with the dudes, it's kind of like, it seemed initially a little bit more varied, but I guess you
I
are right
probably,
with them always like kind of being into appearance that even the guys are still into their appearance just in a different way.
no, I
Um,
probably don't notice it just 'cause I don't watch as much TV. So it's like something that doesn't even cross my mind. I'm like, oh, okay. But yeah, I imagine you watch a lot of TV, you kind of like start to notice the archetype. But
yeah,
yeah, Apophis is wearing like lots of makeup, and um, Teal'c was wearing makeup in the beginning. But
yeah.
on the other side of that, on the other side of appearances, um, who do we have? It was, tell me it was Nerus, if you want to go on the other side of appearances, the glutton guy, right?
Oh, I
Because you
love
mentioned,
him.
because he actually is like super quirky and super weird. And no, I love him too. I mean, he is a character.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I love yeah. He actually drives me crazy because it's like um just with me like having issues of like because he's the one that eats all the time, right? Like and I get really triggered because I have like the whole is it misophonia?
Misophonia.
I always want to say misophonia, but I make it into a soup. Um but like, yeah, because of me being really sensitive to hearing like sounds of people eating or smacking or certain types of sounds that really get to me, that when I'm watching a show, if their voice or sounds are picked up in a certain way that's quite strong for those types of sounds, it literally like, ooh, it drives me crazy. It's so hard to watch. And if I remember correctly with him, when he's like eating like a ton of stuff and like smacking. Like I'm like, ugh. But at the same time, I actually really do love that Goa'uld because he's a
Me
bit
too.
wonky. I love the wonky. I guess that's the that's the takeaway is I like the weird and I like the strange and whenever that's portrayed in some way, I always tend to gravitate towards those types of characters.
Yeah. No, I would say that's a one thing. When you think about the Goa'uld, the one I love this particular advantage that this group has is that because they're all so in a way that it has been designed that they're all over the top. They're not slight in anything they do. And so when you get characters like this, it's not just that he's like a glutton, he's like way over the top glutton, like eating everything, demanding, and in his Goa'uld way, where he's like super, you know, focused on himself and like selfish, narcissistic, but also glutton. And so I think it's this really unique kind of aspect where they have these bad guys that they can also make kind of really interesting versions of them that either work with them or against them and have some weird feature that is way amplified.
Yeah. Um that as I was kind of going through the Goa'ulds, was it Seth that was the one that was like the cult uh
Yes, yes.
leader? Um that I actually really liked I don't know. It's like I'm kind of unsure how I actually feel about Seth, right? Like
Uh-huh.
um but I liked that story. I liked that episode, but I'm not sure if I would say that I actually like that Goa'uld. Like he kind of irritates me a little. I mean, I guess he's supposed to probably, but I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about that character?
I thought it was cool they did a cult episode. Like
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. I mean, he didn't really get him himself didn't really get a lot of screen time. Like overall, he got a little bit, but I would say probably the episode itself. It was one of those circumstances where the episode itself was kind of more of a thing than his character. Like probably that stands out more.
Mhm.
I do think it's cool that they address the cult aspect, considering that so much of the Goa'uld was all about them kind of getting this religious followings, and
Yeah.
they do address, I think, in Stargate a lot of the circumstances surrounding religion and how people follow religion, and maybe what some aspects, like some things you can follow can do. And also, in a way, it's almost historically like looking at what people have done in contexts where they were doing something because of a religion or because of something to do with, like
Yeah.
ancient mythology, that kind of thing. But also, of course, the Ori, they're touching on the Crusades and everything. So they are really thinking a lot of this through. And in this case, I mean, cults are a thing. And I think when it came out, it was like, what, 2000, early 2000s? So it wouldn't have been far removed from some of this like big cult bust that happened in the 90s, right?
Oh, maybe. Maybe. I mean, and it makes sense too. Like it seems like a very Goa'uld thing to do, you
Hmm.
know?
Yeah, you
Within
would want everybody worshiping you.
yeah, within more of like a modern setting, a modern
Hmm.
spin on it. And so I really actually really liked that episode.
Me too.
Um, and I do uh, well, what also fascinates me too is isn't that the same actor that also played Daniel's dad?
Was it?
I
Oh
think
my gosh,
so.
was it?
And
Okay, that's crazy.
I think so. And in fact, I think that actor is following our Stargate Fandom podcast on Instagram.
Wait, really? Oh, that's
Yeah, when we
amazing.
first
Hi,
started doing this,
Seth.
when we first started doing this, I don't know if he watches any of this, but like he did follow us on Instagram, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the same actor that played Daniel's dad and then played Seth. And so it's kind of cool to kind of see how actors can just kind of shift into completely different characters um instead of getting typecast, right? Like, and you can't imagine them playing certain types of characters because they're so different, right? But yeah, so I do like that one.
Me too, me too. No, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, I know there's a ton of gold that like we could talk about, but I mean, I think we did a good job of kind of really mentioning a
Yeah,
decent
some,
amount of them.
oh, of
Um,
course. Yeah, no, there's too many, and there's some that there's a lot of gold that are kind of appearing in maybe one episode or um, something, and it's more just especially in this summit episode, there's just so many gold that are there.
yeah,
But I think it's just interesting to kind of go through various degrees of gold from the main ones all the way down to, the ones appearing in one episode. Like we just talked about Seth, he appeared in one episode, but
yeah,
I mean, and I think it's just to kind of highlight what a cool and unique enemy they are.
yeah,
When you think the diversity of them, because
yeah,
you have everything like you mentioned from, say, this like kind of serious ones like Sokar to like the flirty sexual Hathors to, Katesh
yeah.
to Ball and then to um Nerus. I said it right, Nerus. The gluttonous one.
Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah. So you do start to realize just like how much variety there is. Like after we talk through it, then I'm just like, wow, yeah, there actually is like quite a lot of like variety as you continue through, which I think was necessary. I think it was needed.
I agree.
If it all just stayed the same and every gold was like Apophis, then I
Hmm.
feel like we probably wouldn't have had the respect that we probably all have for Apophis because that's
Yeah.
its own unique like thing. And so yeah, I think the show did really, really well with kind of giving that variety where because Goa'uld is around for so long, it
Yeah,
could
like
yeah,
all 8 seasons or something.
it
And
could
then they're still kind of
very
around. Yeah.
yeah, it could very easily slip into like a thing where people just get bored of it and they're just like,
Hmm.
okay, I'm over this now, like on to the next thing. But that actually maybe it's kind of like a good ending point that like I had a thought that'd be curious like for people to actually comment on if they've made it this far in our episode. But what type of villain would you like to see in the new series? What do you think will be seen? Like what would be like the ideal like type of character to have for the new villain, you know?
And do you think we'll see any Goa'uld come back? Because of course it's not out of the question that they have returned in some form. I mean, they're still around. They just the power has shifted, so maybe the power shifts in a different way. How do you think we'll encounter them, or if we'll encounter them? Because I hope we see some Goa'uld, and I think it would be weird if we didn't, unless we're completely in a different galaxy. But if we're at all in this galaxy, I'm sure we're gonna encounter some.
Yeah, I mean, I do know that they're very careful with wanting to not they're staying true to like the backstory of everything that's happened up to this
Hmm.
point. So I would imagine that would be cool, if there's like some sort of reference to
Yeah.
things that we've already seen. But
Or
yeah,
somebody will pop up, some new random Goa'uld that we don't know, that maybe they're not the main baddie, but you meet them.
yeah, yeah,
And also let us know in the comments what Goa'uld do you like? Which ones do you not like? How do you feel about what we've said? Do you agree, disagree? Do you have any opinions on the Goa'ulds? Or did you just like you don't not interested in them as an enemy? Tell us your thoughts.